thing.
And now for the uninformed.
So let's serve up some dibbles and bits.
Here's the biggest informer of them all, Mr. Know-It-All.
Right now on the Rob Dibble Show.
Sponsored by Tire Depot and my buddy Tony. Go see him and support a local business. You're not going to find a nicer, more professional crew than Tony and everybody at Tire Depot. Great courteous service. Leading tire brands including Cooper, Michelin, and BF Goodrich. Tire Depot just off Route 6 in Bristol and online at tiredepotct.com.
Well, Dibs, the NCAA got exactly what they wanted. They got 2 SEC teams for a 3-game series to finish out the NCAA sports calendar in college baseball. You got the powerhouse program of the LSU Tigers against the other powerhouse MLB factory, the Florida Gators. They will start on this station, by the way. We're going to have all the series games as long as the Yankees don't dip into that and don't know for weather. But Florida, LSU, it's a 3-game series. But the game last night, LSU versus Wake Forest, heck of a game. College baseball continues to give us great plays, including great plays at the plate. Little chopper bunt to the first baseman. He wasn't really in position, charges hard, gets it on the fly, little scoop move to the catcher. In time, he's out of there. Probably the play of the game to put him in the national championship.
Yeah, their first baseman, Morgan, is exceptional. He's very fast. That's one of those touch plays that you work on. They call it an in-between tough play. And usually as a pitcher, you're running towards first base. You're either going to scoop it with your glove and flip it,
right,
or you're going to take it yourself because it's almost impossible to beat the runner. Well, on that one, you're charging the bunt. The base runner's coming down third base, and he just basically anything he can do is like shovel pitch it to the catcher. And the catcher, again, in one continuous motion, made the play. I mean, what I saw LSU Wake Forest, I watched the entire game last night. The pitching was amazing, but the defense was even better.
Yeah.
I mean, so those pitchers are going to be going pro, but a lot of these guys, because they're great defenders, have a leg up on a lot of the guys right now. We're watching a lot of bad defense at the major league level. They're not really teaching it, and a lot of these guys come from college, 21, 22 years old because of COVID. Some of them are coming out a little older, 23. That's like AA. That's like Harvard Yard Goats experience. And so
I agree.
You still don't have as many games under your belt, so the pitchers are probably going to take them another 2 years. There's some of these kids playing in the College World Series right now. Within a year could be playing in the major leagues.
I agree with that, and I really do like how Major League Baseball did it this year, where they put the draft after this series is over. Before, it was 2 weeks. It was like super regionals. You kind of find out everybody on the weekend, and then you've got to play for a national championship. Yep. And, I never thought – I talked to Eduardo Perez about this. Like, I never think that these guys dog it in any kind of way because they have the contract waiting for them. But now I know they don't, because this actually – potentially the play that you just saw may have moved that first baseman up a few scotches in the draft that's coming up in a week. So I love how Major League Baseball has gotten behind NCAA baseball.
Right.
And I think, too, just goes hand in hand with some of the talent that we'll see here in this series and we've seen in this tournament and that we've seen watching our UConn friends that you're going to see, like you say, in a couple of years in the bigs.
Well, the kid that started Louder for Wake Forest, he's definitely going pro.
Yeah.
He was amazing. Skeens, he's going pro. He throws around 100, but a better breaking ball. People don't realize at 20, 21, 22, that's when I finally finished finding a breaking ball that got me to the major league. So this kid's already a finished product. Don't love the 120 pitches at this point in the season. That's a lot on his arm. I wonder when they'll try to bring him back with LSU. The series starts tomorrow at 7 o'clock. You know he's not going to pitch in that one, but he's definitely going to pitch either out of the bullpen or start one of those 3 games to try to give LSU a championship. And I've said this about the kid, for Stanford, that, listen, he's got a career ahead of him. And yeah, I know it's big hype, and it's on ESPN, and Carl Ravitch and everybody are hyping up. You throw like this, that, and the other thing. But, do a follow-up on the kid in 5 years.
Yeah.
Where's that kid in 5 years? So I worry a lot about these kids now that I've been coaching down at the lower level. And I'm not saying it's abusive, but at this point in the season, that's a lot. He's a strikeout guy. He struck out 9 over 8, 120 pitches, 82 for strikes, but I'm going to say most of those max effort pitches, he could use probably 5 days off.
Right.
But he's not going to get that at college.
And that's the scenario when you're talking about the NCAA tournament.
Plays over and over and over.
And so, like, all hands on deck, but there's some hands that got to be waiting until Sunday because they just finished up with Wake Forest. I'm kind of rooting for the Gators. That's the region that UConn lost in, so that would make my Huskies.
Gators look strong, but
awesome.
LSU now looks like the LSU. Listen, I thought Wake Forest was going to sweep them, and they didn't. And now you look at a team that just did what they did was remarkable. Having to take 2 out of Wake Forest, they did to propel themselves into the championship series. But it's going to be a good one. Like you said, everybody loves Florida and LSU. I was riveted by Roger Clemens. My wife even looked at the TV and said, how is he not in the Hall of Fame? So they had Roger Clemens talking about these young men. A lot of that was about essentially their futures and things like that. And he loved Lauder that was pitching for Wake Forest. He said this kid, how he squares up his body, how he tilts, and he gets his hip and his shoulder facing his target. I mean, those are things coming from a guy, I think, 7-time Cy Young Award winner should be in the Hall of Fame. He knows what he's talking about. So, people may not think he belongs in the Hall of Fame, but I certainly do, and there's a lot of other people. So, I love hearing from people like that. I would like to hear more of those kind of, reports from guys that should be coaching. I know Roger does sparingly, but a guy like that should be in the minor leagues. He should be roving around, helping kids that are hoping to get to the major leagues, because he'd be such an asset for their future, because he has so much knowledge to give.
NBA draft last night. We talked a lot about this in the beginning of the show. Just to recap it, Jordan Hawkins will be going to the New Orleans Pelicans. The Hawk owns. That's I mean, it's still a bird. I don't know.
You call him Hawkeye as far as him being able to throw down,
we'll
but
see.
We'll
see if there's a
Andre Dawson was the Hawk to me.
Right. Yeah.
So
we'll see what the Hawk from UConn.
Unbelievable,
can do
6'5", man. He's an inch taller than me. It's hard to believe, but because I look at it against all the trees that are out there, but 6'5", shooting guard. I hope this kid has a great career and nothing stops him.
Another guy we talked about in 3 o'clock was Adama Sanogo. He did not get drafted, but just signed a 2-way deal with the Chicago Bulls. Rooting for him. The guy we didn't really spend much time on was Andre Jackson, going to Milwaukee. Eventually to Milwaukee. Drafted by Orlando, traded to Milwaukee. I love this for him. To me, this is like you're the protege for Giannis, man. I would have to think that Giannis – and still, you know me, I say Giannis is not a great basketball player, but he's the first person I'd pick to have on my team.
Oh, absolutely.
He might not be the best dribbler. He might not be the best shooter, but that dude has created a jump shot for himself. I think Andre's shot will get better in the NBA than what it was in college. And also, if he is going to be backing up Giannis as a guy that can guard so many different people in this league, I think he's got a future coming off the bench. And we'll see if that can develop into a 3-and-D guy. Andre can shoot. I think he's not given enough credit for being a decent shooter. It's just the way he shoots takes a while to get into it. If he can get coached up, change his shot to have a quicker release, and being more accurate, obviously, I think the guy could have a long career in the NBA. I'm a huge Andre Jackson fan, and just like we said with Sanogo, this guy's got so much heart, so much pride. He will be bringing 100% to the floor if he's out there.
Well, listen, I love all of them. I mean, they feel like your kids after because
I was so proud of them.
I'm so proud of them. Exactly.
Oh.
They're I hate saying like they're so well mannered. They're such good kids, but that's Dan Hurley in the program.
I was thinking that last night.
I think whether it's the men or the women that UConn turns out there into the world. I don't care if it's baseball, basketball, football. You're turning out great kids and great humans. And when I saw Jordan Hawkins, it made me cry, because the first thing he said was, I idolize the two most hardworking people in my life, my mom and my dad. That you couldn't have a better role model than his parents, and he is going to become a role model in the NBA. So, and you got all the other stuff, and I hate talking all the negative stuff all the time, because it's not really like that. 99.9% of all the athletes out there are great people. We get caught up in the, 1%ers or the less than 1%ers that mess up occasionally. That happens because we're humans. But, Andre Jackson, man, following this cat And, and people, the first thing I hear people, well, he can't shoot. Well, have you ever watched him play? The kid could jump out of the gym. He plays great defense. He can develop a jump shot game.
He affects the game.
Exactly. So he is a game changer. And so when you understand, athletes as opposed to, well, that he's one-dimensional. He could shoot. Like James Harden doesn't play defense. He could if he wanted to. He's probably a great defender when he wants to do. But you've got other guys that have such versatility. That's Andre Jackson. Okay, so maybe he starts his career off of being a lockdown defender and being a rim protector. Well, Dennis Rodman became a multi-millionaire and world champion many times over because you know what? He grabbed 20 rebounds a game.
Defended anyone who came his way.
And rarely scored. But when he wanted to, he could throw 30 down.
Yeah.
He had that part of his game was there, but he didn't need it. He wasn't needed on the Bulls to do that. So hopefully whatever they need Andre Jackson to do, and he's called upon to do it, he is the best at whatever they want him to do.
The one thing I noticed as well last night, obviously Coach Hurley and his culture, his team, his program that he's built has produced these players. They brought him into UConn, has produced these players. He is so well deserving of that contract, 6 years, $33 million. I heard that yesterday. I was like, wow, that is somewhat of a hometown discount for him. I bet you everybody in Connecticut's freaking out. How you give that guy so much money? You're crazy.
Well, you're right, though.
Crazy. But in saying all of that about Coach Hurley, the embrace between Kimani Young, assistant coach, and I think his title's better than that. I think it's associate head coach.
I think it's associate head coach, like Chris Daly.
The embrace with him and Jordan Hawkins, you could just see that Kimani Young has a personal investment, a personal relationship with these guys that is father figure stuff. And this guy is so important to the success of the UConn Huskies men's basketball
explain that,
team.
though. Explain recruitment. Explain walking into somebody's home and saying, listen, I got this kid for, I don't care if it's a year, if he's transferring, or if he's a post-grad, or 3 years with a guy. You're walking into someone's living room and going, hey, we got this kid. And when these kids now turn out and their dream was to play in the NBA and they even just to have a shot to be in the conversation of those 2 rounds that happened last night, you've not only fulfilled what you said you were going to do, but
true.
you've taken it to another level. And I think that it's an unappreciated thing. I will always love scouts and evaluators and people that are trying to make a difference in these kids' lives. I mean, we don't know what everybody's walking into. There's kids that are coming out of the most impoverished situations. Then there's other kids that are affluent AAU prodigies. We don't know that. So a lot of times when you see these kids now getting drafted, it's beyond your wildest dream. And so I think we saw 3 UConn Huskies affected by the coaching staff, the recruitment process, and then the turning this program around. Had Dan Hurley not come here, I don't think this program's even competing for national.
You won't know these names.
Exactly.
You don't know these kids.
So Dan Hurley directly affected the lives of 3 young men.
And it was a plan for Jordan Hawkins. Hurley actually explained the plan to us. He said, listen, your freshman year, I need you to learn as much as possible.
Right.
Sophomore year, you're going to take a serious leap, and we're focusing our offense around you. So that means this offseason you have to put in work if we're going to put that investment on you. That was a conversation they had immediately after his freshman season. And they followed a blueprint to get him to that 14th pick last night. I thought that was so special. It's bringing tears to my eyes right now.
I know, but again, that's evaluation. To me, the unsung heroes are people that can basically say in 3, 4, 5 years, I see you as an NBA prospect.
Yeah.
Like when I was a 19-year-old kid that gets drafted by the Reds, can you imagine someone projected me to the big leagues?
Right.
I can't.
Right.
I can't. I'm right in the Jimmy Butler world. Like, get the hell out of here.
Right.
There's no way I'm playing in the big leagues. And so by 24, I'm in the major leagues. By 26, I'm a world champion. Somebody actually saw that in me, scouting me in high school, scouting me in the Greater Hartford Twilight League, and drafting me. Somebody put their faith in you. And that's a huge thing, to put your faith in a young man or a young woman's hands and say, hey, my reputation's kind of at stake here that you actually do what we need you to do.
Grady Dick's red jacket. It's an ode to Dorothy in Kansas and the ruby red slippers leaving Kansas.
There you go. And everybody just thought he was being a cocky young kid.
Yeah.
There was some thought behind it. All right, when we come back, we'll get you updated on the Travelers. Guys are shooting some great numbers, people. It's a lot of fun.